Good evening and welcome to Joint Caucus. It's another Friday. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Joy News channel on Multi TV for Joint Caucus. Tonight we'll be focusing on two issues on the show. We'll touch base with the legal battle that is ongoing, i.e. the suit filed by the NPP's presidential candidate for the 2012 elections and his running mate and the party chairman of the NPP, as well as the joinder motion filed by the NDC. And also, if you probably have been following the news today, President John Dramani Mahama has presented his first batch of ministerial appointees to Parliament. We will look at the names that have come up and the various ministries that they have been assigned to. Bearing in mind that Parliament is going on recess, it's also supposed to be the vetting of the ministers. We'll get into all that. My guests in the studio, Samuel George, he is a member of Government's Communications team. Good evening, Samuel, and thanks for joining us.
Evening to you.
And Mr. Samuel Jimfi is a member of the NPP's Communications team. Good evening, and thank you for joining us.
Good evening.
Okay, so let's start off with the court case. Yesterday, was it yesterday? Yesterday, in the court, when the case was supposed to be held, the NDC's joined the motion. The NPP raised some concerns, which we understand the Supreme Court has asked them to put into writing to submit before it. Now, the case has been adjourned indefinitely. What happens to first of all, let me find out from you as a member of the party's communications team. How did you take that, the adjournment, indefinite adjournment?
Well, it's part of the legal process that you have the right, every party in the case have the right to issue or raise issues of bias. Okay, and that if you do that, there are two ways. Either the judge in whose name the case of bias that is being raised can quietly say, okay, if that's what you say, I will then, what do you call it, excuse myself. Or, on the other hand, it can come out openly, or you would then have to file a motion, okay, to the court, and for the court to sit on it and listen to your points of argument. So it is part of the normal process. And of course, the court couldn't have fixed a date for the next hearing. Because one, we would have to file a motion, okay, the judge in whose, or the judges in whose name these bias is being raised would then have to file a response, and then the hearing will be done, okay? So naturally, the court couldn't have said, couldn't have given a date. So this issue about sine die is not about an indefinite thing. I believe that by Monday or Tuesday, we'll be back on the road on this matter.
George, how did you also take it?
Well, let me say a very good evening to our viewers. And it's interesting to note, it came to me as a matter of great interest that members of the legal team of the NPP would want to basically bring up impediments in the way of the execution of this court case. For me, if you ask me, I wish that this court case would be over and within the next 3 weeks. I think we should be able to know this matter should be laid to rest, because we do not need the distraction of this court case. We, as government, we need to remain focused on delivering the Better Ghana agenda, which we were voted rightfully into power by the Ghanaian people for. And for me, I think that this is an unwarranted distraction on the minds of the government, on the minds of the people of Ghana. And I've repeatedly said that, as far as I'm concerned, in my personal opinion, I believe that this is a waste of the Supreme Court's time, because this is an exercise in futility, as far as I'm concerned.
Why do you say it's an exercise in futility? They have their own concerns which prompted them to make those objections and raise those concerns. And
well, clearly we have the writ they file has become an object of public knowledge. And if you look at it, you can see the contradictions and conflicting stands in there. Okay, prior to them filing that, they had told us that there was gargantuan fraud, and that John Mahama had colluded with the Electoral Commission to perpetrate gargantuan fraud on the people, the electorate of the Republic of Ghana. If you look at the writ they filed, there is no mention, not even one mention of nowhere in that writ does the word fraud appear. fraud has disappeared from their lingua right now. It's disappeared from the whole case they are making. They no longer talk about fraud right now. They're rather speaking of irregularities. For me, that is the shifting goalpost that they are engaged in. For
but
me,
irregularities could also amount to fraud.
No, there's no way irregularities can amount to fraud, because fraud is a calculated attempt to take away the mandate of the people. Irregularities are things which would have happened
but didn't. Clearly
might not as a result of people's direct actions. It could have happened as a result of inactions of people. And so for me, as far as I'm concerned, this for me is the whole nation must not be dragged along with the NPP's own internal squabble. This whole court case is about the internal struggle for power in the NPP. That is what it is about. It doesn't go beyond that. This is about making Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo still relevant in the scheme of things till 2016. And the legal team, mark my words here, the legal team is going to do everything, that's the NPP legal team, will do every single thing to make sure that this case drags as long as possible to 2016, so he still remains relevant and can stand again in 2016.
Mr. Samajimfi, is that the case?
Well, I'm sorry to say that if this case is unwarranted, why are they jumping in the hills to go and amend, join in the suit?
In fact, that was the next question I was going to ask him. Why the party
it is warranted because we have evidence to prove, okay, that 1 out of every ballot that was casted and declared is invalid. And as the law says, these invalid votes shouldn't have been added. We're saying that there were irregularities across over 4,709 and still counting. Okay, we are getting close to 6,000 polling stations with a total votes of about 1.34 million and still counting. If you look at the fact that the vote difference between Nana Addo and President Mahama, okay, is less than 350,000. And even in the EC's own admission, that 127,000 votes were a mistake. They were a mistake. If you should take that votes out of President Mahama, we will be in a second round. So this thing is really warranted. And you see, we are exercising what the laws of Ghana enjoins us to do. And so by doing that, you can't say it's unwarranted and that we are wasting the people of Ghana. If it was a waste of time, we will not put it even in our constitution. That the framers of our constitution envisage that there could be a day that there could be electoral disputes. And the constitution laid down a procedure as to how this thing must be resolved. We have moved on and have established CR 74 that should govern us in this process. And for information, the law has been changed. The law CR 74 has given us a clear timelines for which these matters must be resolved.
But then the CI 74 is also now being contested. It's legality or otherwise. It's being contested by Bernard Mona. Are you worried that the outcome would, should that case probably be heard and determined before yours? Are you worried it would then make nonsense of what you are doing?
It is there. You know, in one breath, oh, it is nothing. The General Secretary said, we are a bunch of idiots. Now he's in the hills of the courts. So who is the chief idiot? You understand? We are not worried. Whoever wants to challenge the CR 74 should go and challenge it. But the impact is that if you throw a CR 74, then it annuls the 2012 elections. Because the 2012 elections was conducted based on the back of CR 74. So the justices have a lot on their plate.
George, I'll be coming to you in a second, but one thing I also want to find out, the issue of bias raised by your team, we're still struggling to find out who exactly on the bench they are raising that issue against. It looks like they don't want to comment. Would you be in a position to know?
No, you see, it's important that we appreciate the wisdom behind why our legal team decided to raise these things in camera. Okay? It's about the reputation of someone, that you think that there could be something about it, and for that matter, they need to raise it before him in camera. You understand? And it should stay there. We were really surprised that Mr. Atudazi, a legal member, was the one who said it before the courts, that we are raising certain names. But we never mentioned any name, did we? We said we have issue with the panel. We went in, raised it. You understand? And in the wisdom of the judges, they said, okay, we would not like to deal this matter in camera. We would like to deal it out there. So file a motion. As to whether our legal team will move the next step to file a motion is for them to decide. Because you see, it's important that we protect the respect the public has about judges. Well, once anything is raised about the integrity of a judge, you know, Ghanaians, it could be a stigma on him till his entire, what do you call it, judicial career. And we do not want that to happen.
So will your team still be pushing for the case to be heard in camera as far as this issue of bias?
You wait until Monday. I cannot tell you what strategy they have, but you wait until Monday or Tuesday, and you hear what exactly the next step they will take. Okay.
Judge, what I wanted to find out from you was you raised the point about their case being unwarranted, yet the NDC as a party has decided to join has filed a joinder motion when in actual fact, when the MPP's presidential candidate and his running mate and the chairman of the party filed the suit, it was against President Mahama, not the party.
Well, I think that you'd bear in mind that President Mahama did not stand as an independent candidate. He stood on the ticket of the NDC. And so it would be very, very childish and myopic on the part of the party to sit back. It will be very, very childish and myopic on the part of the NDC to sit back and say, we don't care. President Mahama can go to court on his own. President Mahama did not go to court to stand because he's President Mahama. He stood on the ticket of the NDC. And truly, if you took the ballot paper, you'd realize that the logo of the party came before his picture. You understand me? And that tells you that it was the party people voted for. The party was the machine through which he got to the presidency. If his legitimacy is being questioned, the party cannot sit aloof. Now, coming to the issue my brother raised, I think I can help himself and I think our viewership. In the past 10 minutes, the NPP has issued a statement to the effect that they are no longer going to be proceeding. They are dropping their objection to the objection they raised about the panel that had been set up by the Chief Justice, and that they would rather want to proceed with the current panel. And I think that they have seen the wisdom, because today, some of us have been on 2 media platforms today already, and we have made the point clear that I believe that, one, the NPP legal team is shooting itself in the foot, because, one, they're setting themselves up against the judges before going to court. If you're going to stand before certain judges to plead your case, and you want to start picking and choosing and saying that this judge is good, this judge is not good, one, you set yourself up against before the judges, because then you create a bias against yourself. Two, if we decide to go down that road, and on other platforms, I had gone into details, I had mentioned other names of judges who are sitting on the current panel.
Which is one thing some are anticipating might happen.
Exactly, but you see, on the advice of the legal team of the NDC, led by the eminent Chachu Chikata, I would restrain myself from stating the affiliations of the other judges. I've done that on other platforms this afternoon. But since the NPP has made its statement this evening, just about 10 minutes ago, I've received word from the legal team not to proceed on that tangent again, because it's of no consequence now. The case will be called again on Wednesday. On Wednesday, we will go back to court to proceed with the hearing as to whether the NDC can join, because right now the NPP has seen sense in them trying to fight Justice Atuguba or whichever justice it is they wanted to fight on the Supreme Court. Because you see, the judges are Ghanaian citizens, and each of the judges sitting on that panel, some of them have their blood sisters on some of the legal teams. You understand me? Yeah. Some of them are brothers, some of them are former party executives. At the end of the day, you cannot blame them, because those things cannot. Else there will be no judge in this country who can sit on any case, because every judge in this country is somebody's brother, somebody's sister, somebody's husband, somebody's in-law, okay, or has held a party position before. And in that case, we'll have to go to Somalia or Burundi to go and import judges to come and sit on our cases in Ghana, because then everybody will raise problems with whichever judge. And so I think that it is only good that the NPP legal team has seen the wisdom in retracing their steps, because they want to path of self-destruction where they were going, and I'm glad they have done that. So now we are not going to be talking about whether any judge has to recuse himself or not. That is no longer a challenge. Right now, what remains a challenge is on Wednesday we go to court and hear if the Supreme Court, in its wisdom, would grant the NDC its desire to be joined in the case. And then from there, we proceed to hear the substantive matter.
So what would the NDC be seeking as far as you are applying to be joined in the case? What exactly are you seeking?
No, we want to become a respondent to the case so that we can also put before the court certain evidence we also have. You cannot just walk into the court if you're not party to the case. You cannot just walk in whilst the proceedings are going on and say you're going to be making certain statements or providing, adducing evidence to the court. And for us, the president, like I said earlier on, went out on the ticket of the NDC. For the NDC to sit aloof and watch His Excellency go through this challenge alone, this allegation of fraud, as we were told verbally, but in the rate of irregularities alone, would be to be leaving him out to hang and dry. That is something we will not do. We will stand by our candidate who Ghanaians elected to become the president of this country, and we will win victory once again in the court as we won at the polls.
Mr. Samajimfi, is the party, the NPP, still collating or putting together your evidence, or now you are sorted?
No, we are still. We're approaching, I believe by the time this case is finished, we will be exceeding 5,000, close to 6,000 polling stations in which there were irregularities. But you see, the right to raise issues of bias is part of the legal process. Their lead counsel, Chachu, did that, didn't he? So the two judges have to recuse themselves. So, and in the Yana case, the Attorney General, the Deputy Attorney General, Oduro, came out with a tape that he heard the judge discussing with someone which he could never prove. And on the basis of that, the judge recused himself. It's a process. We never mention names anywhere, right? And we know the wisdom with which we are approaching. That it was not proper to have raised this in what we call it, in public. We did it in chambers, okay? And for good reason not to tarnish the image of the individual. Even if we make it public and the court says no, you've still said certain things about the individual which could go against it. That is the wisdom behind it. We wanted it in camera. The justices say it should be done in open. Our ultimate goal is to then, what we call, slow down so the case move on. Number two, nowhere in our RIF did you raise any claim or mention NDC's name. And the reason is this. In the EC's books, they are not dealing with the NDC. They are dealing with the candidate. When you are issuing a polling station agent, it is signed by the candidate. Indeed, when you pick up your nomination forms as a presidential candidate, you require 2 people to nominate you. The requirement isn't that they must be party members. They say they must be Ghanaians. 2 from each district. You understand? So, on the presidential ticket, right, it is the individual they deal with. President Mahama today can decide to say that he is no longer an NDC member and there will be no by-election for the presidential because it's not in our laws. It is only when you are a parliamentary candidate that you defect that by-elections are held. So the law is clear that we deal with individuals. Political party can be a platform for which you can aspire to be president. Okay? And so we believe, okay, that this move is the first shot that the NDC is going to receive at the Supreme Court. Because clearly, the law does not recognize political parties in this case. It recognizes individual Ghanaian citizens.
And still, before we wrap up on this legal bit and then go to the vetting of the appointed ministers, your parliamentary candidates have also started going to court. At least we know 3 of them, have been to court this week. I have Foano South, I believe. Infantsman, that's a Samuel Boateng, and Lawrence Ajinsem, Himan Lower Danger. Yes. They've all been to court. And your party chairman
is on his way on Monday.
Okay, because I was going to ask how many, because your party chairman hinted about 30
38 close to 40.
38 close to 40.
That's right.
And what sort is the party also going with them, or these ones two are just individuals who are filing these, who are flagging these issues in court?
No, it's a party. The party, we believe that there were high level of irregularities across this, and just as they did it for the presidential, they did it for the parliamentary. Because when you do vote tally, even though it is from the same voters register, okay, you can have as much as 5,000 people deciding to vote for a parliamentary candidate in some instances without voting for presidential in some instances, or the reverse. So the party is backing them, all the parliamentary candidates who have cases of irregularities in their, what do you call it, constituencies, and they've gone to court, okay? Until, you know, all of them have gone, you will not be able to get the label. We believe that we have close to about 40. That the last count was 38.
Okay, Samuel, quickly. Today in court, as Samuel Boateng and Lawrence Ajinsem had the court award security cost of, I think, 800 cedis in their favor against the respondents who were the MP-elects of the NDC who are in Parliament. Is the NDC also, do you have any candidates who are also going to court to contest any of the election results? And
I will not be able to speak to that matter on authority. I have heard snippets of information that certain individuals might want to also challenge their results. I heard something about the Ayawaso West Oregon constituency, the gentleman there, Kwame. I heard Kwame might want to challenge his results. I've heard a couple of things, but I have not heard
but they haven't gone
official.
To court yet.
I haven't heard of any official communication to that effect. And look, let's put something on record. Going to court to challenge electoral results are a constitutional right. Okay. But then the fact that it's a constitutional right does not make it right in the sense of the word right. Okay, because the fact that, yes, listen, something being a constitutional right, your exercise of that right does not mean it is right. Your exercise of that right could actually constitute a nuisance.
How so?
Let me explain to you. Elections were held. Free, fair elections. You lost. But for nuisance value, you choose to exercise a constitutional right. And you go to court and drag the whole process. And that is why many times, when cases of this nature go and the judges realize the nuisance value of it, they actually award costs against the plaintiff. And you would see how many of these cases will end. You mark it. Many of them, cost will be awarded against them by the judges. Because if you waste the judge's time and you cannot prove and bring substantive evidence, and you keep beating around and just all in the name of exercising a constitutional right. There's a constitutional right to the freedom of movement. But my freedom of movement can become a nuisance. Do you get the point I'm making when I say a constitutional right does not make your action right? Okay. The fact that it's a constitutional right, you have it. But the exercise of it in the wrong form will constitute a nuisance. And that is, I think that most of the court cases we are seeing right now have huge nuisance value. Huge nuisance value.
We'll leave that to the courts to determine. But this is still Joint Caucus here on the Joy News channel. We'll take a quick break. When we return, we will look at the first batch of ministerial appointees that the President has submitted to Parliament, and we'll get to, I'll run the list by you when we return from the break. Stay with us. Okay, you're welcome back. This is still Joint Caucus here on the Joy News channel on Multi TV. My guest in the studio, Samuel Jodnete of the Government Communications team and Asamoah Gyamfi of the NPP's Communications team. I promised to run by you the first batch of ministerial appointees submitted by the President to Parliament today. The list includes Seth Tekbe. He, until recently, was the Deputy Minister of Finance. We now understand he's going for the substantive Minister of Finance. Hannah Tete will be moving from the Trade Ministry. She's now headed to the Foreign Affairs Ministry. Akwesi Opong Fusu is heading to the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development. Clement Kofi Humado, who was the Sports Minister not until recently, is now going to the Agriculture Ministry. Professor Jane Nana Opoku-Agyeman is going to be the Minister for Education. Alhaji Inusa Hussaini, who is a Deputy Minister for Energy, is now headed to the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources. Alhaji Amin Suleimana is heading to the Ministry of Roads and Highways. Collins Dauda, a former Transport Minister, is now headed to the Ministry of Water Resources. Dr. Edward Omaneboama, a former Deputy Sports Minister, is now being appointed as Minister for Communications. Mahama Ayarega, a former Deputy Education Minister, is now headed to the Information Ministry. Then Dr. Otingeje, the former Energy Minister, is now headed to the Ministry of Environment, Science and Innovation, we understand it's now going to be called. And Nana Oyeletha, the human rights activist, we all know, that's Nana Oyeletha. She's now been appointed to head the Gender, Children and Social Protection Ministry. That's is that going to replace Ministry of Women and Children's Affairs?
Clearly, it replaces the erstwhile Ministry of Women's and Children's Affairs. It's now going to be called the Ministry of Gender,
Children and
Social Protection.
What any particular reason why the name has changed?
Well, if you had listened to policy analysts over the years had found the name Women and Children as condescending, because the issue is not about women, the issue is not about children. There are men who have huge challenges. Okay, there are women too who have immense power in this country, and so to just stereotype women as being an endangered species, it came across as condescending. Just the same way right now it is condescending to call anybody tell somebody he's disabled, okay, or he's deformed. You understand me?
Say physically challenged.
Exactly, they are physically challenged. You can't call them disabled again. And so those are some of the policy initiatives which this government is clearly taking care of. The issue is about social protection. Social protection covers old men and old women. It doesn't have to be with just women alone. You have people who are elderly men who have been enjoying some of the social interventions the Ministry of Women and Children, in consultation or in conjunction with the Ministry of Employment and Social Welfare, the LEAP program, which was started by the Kufuor administration and enhanced by the Mills administration, has done to these people's lives. Okay, you have elderly men and women and children who are all beneficiaries. Okay, so if you just stereotype the ministry and call it Ministry of Women's and Children's Affairs, it makes it's in policy, when it comes to policy generation and policy talk, it is pretty condescending. The real focus of that ministry is to make sure that there is gender equality. There are certain spheres in life where it is also biased against men. I can tell you, it is extremely difficult for a man in this country to run a saloon and make money. But go outside this country and see how many men run saloons and but they don't allow them to do that in this country. So those are some of the biases we have in this country. Even in the kitchen, some of the finest chefs in the world are men. Okay, but there's certain stereotypes. Yes, there's certain stereotypes we have to fight. And so the issue now is about gender equality in all spheres of lives. The issue about children, you cannot run away from it. Children is an all-encompassing group, both male child and girl child. And then the issue of social protection. We must have a social system in this country under the Ministry of Employment and Social Welfare, which will work with this ministry to ensure that, look, our social protection structure in this country is something we can actually beat our chest, because we're all young men today. Tomorrow we'll all be old men. And if we do not do something in our youthful days to ensure that there's a proper social protection policy put in place for our future, tomorrow as old men, we would regret the days of our youth.
But if this ministry will be taking care of social protection, do we then need social welfare to be under employment?
Well, we have not heard from the president
yet,
what the designation for that ministry will be. Do not forget, that ministry under Kufuor was called the Ministry of Manpower, Youth and Employment. Okay, we've heard so many semantics are going to change in terms of the names and policy directions. It's possible social welfare would be moved and employment would have something else. We are being told that youth and sports is going to be decoupled. We are also hearing snippets of information that the energy ministry is also going to be decoupled. We're going to have the power sector and then the oil and gas. There's so many things we are hearing. Okay, even education. Right now, if you look at the environment, science and technology, it's no longer environment, science and technology. It is now environment, science, technology and innovation.
Okay, so the technology is still
there, but innovation.
But technology and innovation,
they're clearly different. You need innovation in technology. The innovation part of technology is totally different. And if you remember, in the last,
but it's always been embedded in it.
Well, it is the NDC administration, the Mills Mahama administration, that for the first time since the history of this country, inception of Ghana in 1957, put together a science and technology policy. So we did not have an STI, science, technology and innovation policy. It was put under the auspices, it fell directly under Honorable Sherry Ayiti and Honorable Dr. Awani Buama as ministers in that ministry and deputy minister respectively. They put together a science, technology and innovation policy. And now it's clear that the Mills Mahama administration, which is now Mahama Atta administration, is focusing on innovation. Because if you look at the whole technology sphere, innovation is what drives the revenue. And in the last year of our government, we started the construction of the ICT parks. Those ICT parks are going to be filled with innovation. So if you do not have a ministry that is going to drive the innovation, the ICT parks are going to become white elephants, or you have foreigners coming to take or tap the benefits of our ICT parks. But if we have a ministry that has a policy, and then that ministry is also going to drive the support. Because look, there are people who have great innovative ideas. I know my brother sitting here is a technical person, and only God knows how much innovation he has sitting inside of him. I'm also IT oriented. There are certain database development projects you might want to start on. It's all innovation, but you need huge capital. And if there is no government policy to drive the injection of capital into those kind of spheres, look at the guys in Swame. Marvelous things they do. Okay? But without a policy to drive innovation, we're going to sit where we are.
Mr. Somajimfi, gender, children, and social protection, how does that come to you?
Yeah, but before then, I would like to respond to this, that you can have a constitutional right to do something, but it could end up being you.
Okay, I'll give you just 30 seconds for that.
I want him to know, he is doing law, that we have a locus classicus case.
Okay.
It is a case that we have a solid rock evidence, and we're going to prove that before court.
Okay.
And if they don't end up, they would, if they don't care, they will end up paying whatever, what do you call it?
The cost.
The cost.
Okay,
not
so now let's get to the appointment.
I think that is left for their lordships to decide.
It amazes me. I'm picturing President Mahama then as MP for Bole Bamboy, 2001, when President Kufuor decided to create certain ministries, and what they said. You understand? Create sports and harbors is superfluous. He created modernization, the capital city, superfluous. He decided to decouple others, and all of that is superfluous. This is not good. It's waste of resources. Letterheads will be changed, all kinds of things. But they're doing the same thing.
No.
Oh, my brother. Ministry of Children and Women Affairs is now what?
Gender, children, and social protection.
You've changed it.
We haven't created a new ministry.
Oh, you haven't. You've created oil and gas.
It's not been announced.
It's going to come. It's going to happen.
And is that a bad thing? We didn't have oil and gas previously.
You see, all I'm saying is this. In President Kufuor's view, Ghana would have become a hub for trade. And honestly, when you want things being done, like he's saying, you create a ministry to really move it on. Yes. So you're doing the same thing. Before I will accept it, I want President Mahama to come and apologize.
About?
Yes, that I didn't know.
Apologize that what?
That he didn't know that there's a need
to you or
to the people of Ghana.
That there was a need for
the creation of ministries to spear up and move things.
Okay.
You see, my only problem is that they are still treating environment as a science. But environment issues are no longer science. Environment issues are regulation. And best place to place environment is local government. Because the districts that offer permits and regulate. Okay? 2, all over the world, it is innovation, trade, and industry. It is education and science. Go on Google, all over the world. You understand? And once you do that, okay, if in that innovation is with trade, and in anytime you innovate, it is the businesses that take up this innovation to make money out of it. But so long as we will continue to treat science and technology as an academic thing, it's going to end up there. The linkages aren't there.
But isn't it so in our case because we're still trying to get people glued to science education?
Yes. So that is why science should go to education. You know the problem CSIR has?
Tell me.
Their remuneration is linked to university lecturers. So if science is with education, our scientists can take advantage of GET Fund and do research. That's what Kufuor did. But if you make it a separate ministry, by law, they can't have access to the GET Fund. Let me tell a simple example. When we were going to play African Cup of Nations, and there was a need to renovate school parks so that the African, what do you call it? The teams could play. That's why we took sports to education. So it allows the Minister of Education to use GET Fund money to build, like they wanted to build the Lagos Sports Stadium. But now you can't continue because sports has been taken out of education. You understand? But they decided to rehash it. President Mills had the power to do that. And President Mahama is doing the same thing. But honestly, he has the power to do whatever he's doing because he is not, our law says there's executive presidency. It's the president's vision that we all follow. And for that matter, he has the power to really align, okay, reshape, add or subtract, so that he can achieve his vision as he promised the people of Ghana for his four-year mandate. So we have no issue with it. But you see, it's always good that when someone does something and you criticize it and you come and see the wisdom in it, you admit it. You understand? Okay. Now when you admit it and you are doing it, people begin to, what do you call it, take you serious. I think that many more ministries, for instance, the issue about the oil and gas, it's a right time because energy is a huge thing. You're talking about our electricity issues, okay? Now you're going to add oil and gas. They're all, not even that, even oil and gas, okay? Yeah. It's a huge oil and gas service, a whole, and all over the world we have Ministry for Oil and Gas, and then you have Ministry for Power or Electricity. Yeah. You understand? And so he's doing that. We wouldn't come out and say, why are you creating many more ministries? Or why are you, what do you call it, job for the boys? That's what they said. They said Kufuor wants to create a job for the boys. That's why he's creating many more ministries and appointing them. But it is good. But my main issue is that this science, technology, environment, science, technology, and innovation, the best place to place the innovation and technology is the Ministry of Trade and Industry.
Okay, let me just come in here. Okay. I need to clarify something. That the issue at stake here is not as to whether it is right to create new ministries or to rebrand and reorient ministries. What I see going on here is the reorientation of ministries in terms of policy direction. What you were doing was creating of entirely new ministries.
Which of them?
Okay,
mention one.
I'll give you. Ministry of Fisheries. It was an entirely new ministry. We did not have a national airline. You created an entire new ministry, Ministry of Aviation. You understand me? When Ghana Airways had collapsed, why did we need a Ministry of Aviation?
Ghana Airways had not collapsed then.
Okay, so you
had Ghana Airlines.
You see, no, Ghana Airways, when they took over, Ghana Airways was still working.
Yes, but then later we had Ghana International Airlines.
Ghana International Airlines, which also collapsed. And that's the point we're making. Those are not the things we're doing right now. Right now, you have an existing ministry, the Women and Children's Affairs. It's a different thing if you pick a new ministry and create a Ministry of Gender. Then you say you are trying to create a job for the boys. That is not what we are doing. Look, when I talk about innovation, there's a gentleman who was my mate in tech, computer science guy. He's called Martin Kuse. Excellent gentleman with great SMS texting, SMS messaging in terms of business solutions using SMS. Go to Kenya and see how big and how much money is in SMS marketing today. Okay, these are people who have this kind of ideas in this country. If you have a ministry that has the right policy direction, we'll be able to make sure that we turn out this gentleman
but doesn't
into
it then tie
entrepreneurs?
into what he's saying, that if it's under trade and industry, then, like you're saying, Martin could be absorbed and then helped by the private sector.
You should then understand what the policy direction of the trade and industry ministry is. Okay, now, when a trade and industry ministry is dealing with EPAs, economic partnership agreements, and is likes, okay, you cannot now. Clearly, it is one aspect of it. But then you look at what when President Kufuor wanted to do his PSIs. Okay, he puts it under there, under that ministry. You look at the things that that ministry is doing, helping small-scale businesses. Okay, that is where they are going.
That's where the innovation is needed.
No, I'm coming. Now we're talking of innovation in terms of science. That's why I told you that the previous administration
focus will be mostly on science.
Look, the previous administration, for the first time in the history of this country, since 1957, put together what we call the Science, Technology and Innovation Policy. Okay, this is a policy which is tuned to making sure that we turn out science-inclined people who are going to drive the innovation of this country. India's economic boom is thriving on what? ICT. Japan, from its recession for 10 years, thrived on ICT.
But India is Minister of Science and Education.
Well, that is the
education and science.
You see, there again. Before you can draw a finality on that, you must look at what the policy direction of that ministry you're talking about is.
At the end of the day,
for me, the point here is about us understanding what the policy directions are. The policy direction in this case is to make sure, that is why in conjunction with the STI policy that was brought up under the Ministry of Science and Technology, they started the Master's Scholarship Scheme, which is a scholarship scheme for maths and science-oriented courses.
To go and what? Teach in education?
No, it's not just for maths and science teachers.
Okay, so
let's doing medicine, you qualify for a master's scholarship.
Okay, so Judge, after you have masters in medicine, you can go and teach.
Yes, it's also another option. Okay, so let's not look at some of the.
You oversimplify when you say that the whole scheme is to turn out teachers.
No.
Okay.
It is not to turn out teachers.
You see, all I'm saying is
he's just saying that there's a link.
All I'm saying is this.
There's a linkage to education.
It has become clear that the president has the power to create, reorient ministries based upon the vision he has.
Nobody is questioning that.
You just read something from the net that Ghana is the fourth most.
The fourth destination to
visit in 2013.
New York Times.
Yes.
They have 46 destinations for 2013.
What it then means, in the eye of President Kufuor, is that to make this country a hub for Africa, we know keep on saying that it's a gateway to Africa.
Yeah.
You needed to harness your ports, including airports. And so if you set up such a ministry, you understand, it harnesses it. In the area of fisheries, okay, it's the same thing. Our fishing community, okay, I call it the 11th region. From Kita to Apam, what do you call it?
Disco.
Disco. You have a city. You understand? And it's important that we put a ministry in charge that will focus in developing it.
Okay.
And if a president has that vision, you don't come and say it is job for the boys.
All right, we're running out of time, so let's touch briefly on some of the personalities who have come up. Nana Oyeletha, I remember just after the announcement came, I went on Twitter, and some of my friends on Twitter were reacting differently, particularly to Nana Oye's appointment. Someone actually said, Nana Oye is the kind of person we need to put decision makers and policy makers on their toes, not someone we need as a minister. She's a human rights activist, all right? And undoubtedly, the person, they agree she will do well in this ministry because it is in her line of work, but they think it's best if she's not a minister. Do you agree?
Well, I don't know. I believe the president would have consulted her in what do you call it, delivering, in appointing her. Okay, if I want to play a little bit politics, the president worked with her on the Gambia saga. You understand, and so maybe it's time to reward her or something. But my fear is that most activists in the human rights line, when they get into politics, don't deliver. They really don't deliver because you see, it is very, very easy to raise the issues when you're outside. But when you're on the saddle, it is not that easy. Okay, so I wish her the best, but I don't think that it's going to be that
easy for her to sail through.
For her to sail through.
George, some were actually suggesting that she should reject the appointment, so to speak. Do you think so?
Well, I think that decision rests in Nana Oyeletha's bosom. I've had a lot of talk about this. Even on one of my previous engagements this afternoon, the issue came up about even her advocacy for gay rights, and bearing in mind that we're talking about equity and social protection, and that's the ministry she's going to head. And understanding Ghanaians' position with regards to our positioning, with regards to our position on what is anti-gay position. You know, for a gay rights activist to now be in charge of...
No, I don't think you have to call her. She
advocates for their rights. She believes that
let's honestly. Okay. She never said she endorses gay. What she was saying is that it was wrong for us to attack them.
Yeah. Clearly, and so she's advocating their rights. It's different someone saying, I believe something is right, and someone saying, look, let us not malign these people. Let us not castigate them.
Yeah, that's what she's saying.
And that is advocacy. That is all advocacy is about. She endorses the fact that somebody, you have advocates...
No, that doesn't mean she endorses it.
No, I haven't said she endorses it.
Okay,
I don't say she endorses it. All I'm saying is she advocates equal rights for them, that they're also human beings who must be giving the fair... Exactly. But for me, I believe that that would be a very simplistic way to judge the whole person, Nana Oyeletha. I agree with my brother here that, look, it is easy to talk the talk, but not easy to walk the walk. It is easy for everyone, for people to advocate for something, but when they're given the opportunity, and you see, I'm glad we're having a lot of technocrats who are being appointed now. You have Professor Nana Jane Opoku. Okay, people will get to understand the world of politics and the world of governance, and they realize that everything in politics is not white and black. You understand me? Things in politics are in colored. You must know how to mix your CY and MK to be able to get the right color blend. Okay, but I believe that the point I've made repeatedly is I trust the judgment of John Dramani Mahama. I've come to respect his judgment, and he feels that these are the right people to lead the drive at the ministerial level at this point in time. I believe absolutely in his decision. I would only make one call as a party foot soldier. That call I am making is to everybody who will get an appointment. And the president is going to make close to about 4,000 appointments.
4,000?
Yeah. Boards, all across board.
All these ones are
all the entirety. Every president in this country makes between 4,000 to 5,000 appointments. Look, every one of them who would get an appointment and does not share in the drive to make Ghana a better place should, in their own interest, reject the appointment. But if they take the appointment and try to act as a cog in the wheel of the Better Ghana agenda through their actions or inactions, or fail to deliver the job that is being entrusted into their hands by His Excellency the President, some of us will hold them to task. Because as far as I am concerned, between now and December 2016, there's a job to do.
No, it's between now and March.
Ghana needs to be served. People must work for Ghana, not for their private interest. And so anybody, look, there were certain mistakes under the Mills administration in terms of individual ministers and their actions and inactions. It would not be countenanced this time. John Dramani Mahama is a man on a mission, a man who is focused with the right drive, zeal, zest, and enthusiasm to ensure that Ghana is a better place than he met it. If the ministers and appointees do not share that drive, they should not worry themselves. They should rather back out.
Clement, Kofi Umado is moving from sports to agric, and I was just going through a brief profile of him, and I realized that he actually studied animal science and agricultural extension.
Yeah.
So should he have gone to agric all this while? No, instead of sports in the first administration?
One thing we are realizing with the appointments, the 12 appointments His Excellency has done, is the fact that he's actually moved people into their core competencies in terms of expertise. You look at Honorable Clement Kofi Umado. I wouldn't call him a failure. He did very well at the Youth and Sports Ministry. But coming into agriculture, as a politician, that is his core background.
But you look at Mr. Hoy also did brilliant at agric, and you would have expected that he stayed.
You see, one thing people fail to understand is there are certain ministries where it is almost cast in the wool or written in stone that the person must have the technical competence to become a minister, like the Attorney General's department. Yeah. Because he, the Minister of Justice, is the chief legal advisor to the president. And maybe Ministry of Health, where you most times want to have a doctor there who is also going to understand the lingua of but even in this case, you have Albantumani Bagbin, who is not necessarily a medical doctor, but most times you try to see medical doctors go there. You look at the national security, with the exception of one or two people like Kofito Tobi Kwachi, you always have either retired police officers or military officers being sent into the Ministry of National Security and all those kind of positions. But the job of ministers is basically policy, to drive the government agenda. The people who push the paper, the bureaucrats, the technocrats, are civil servants, the chief directors and the directors of the ministry. But then it also helps when you have a minister who is a policy initiator or someone who will drive policy, understanding the technocracy of his ministry. You look at somebody like the local government gentleman, Honorable Oponfusu. He is the former local government service director. He's the former director of the local government services. So going into the local government ministry, he goes in with a wealth of experience in his field. Professor Nana Opoko Ajiman, Jane, educationist par excellence. Nana Oyelita, advocate par excellence. And that is where we are moving to.
Our phone lines are now active, 0302-211-70124, and Bright has already joined us on the line. Good evening to you, Bright, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, my brother. Good evening. My name is Bright, once again from Domi.
Domi, okay, go ahead.
Yeah. I want to congratulate Sam George and then the NPC man, Asamoah Jemfi at the studio. Yeah. First of all, I just want to thank the president once again for the good work that he has started so far. You know, I'm just going to comment about the appointments.
Okay, so do that briefly for us.
Yeah, so I think so far so good. The appointment the names that have come out so far, I'm very impressed. But the only thing is, some of the ministers that are not, participating for the part that have been brought in now, should make sure that the tax ahead of us for 2016 is not a small job. As George was saying about that.
Yes,
so they should make sure that they deliver up to expectations.
All right.
Will not forgive the agency to deliver.
All right. Thank you so much, Bright. Now let's go to Kumasi. Good evening, Charles.
Yeah, good evening, my brother. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you too?
I'm fine.
Okay, keep it brief
I'll
for us.
just come for your program to give a small contribution.
Okay, go ahead.
My problem is now for the minister, the government bringing the board. Yeah, I don't have problem for these people. But now you choose the 2 PNC. I need to speak to the NDC mind so that if you can sing to the leaders so that the president can go in forward for all the political parties to choose some of the good people. Okay. Because now he said he need people to build this nation. So it's not only PNC. So we need to go all the political parties so that the nation can go in forward. Thank you
very much, Charles. Charles is calling for an all-inclusive government. Let's go to Mankasim now.
Already with that.
Let's go to but he's saying not only PNC. He wants to see other parties come on board. But let's go to Mankasim. Fire. Good evening.
Good evening, sir. How are you, sir?
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm also fine.
All right. Keep it brief.
I just want to contribute and congratulate the President of the Republic for the good appointment that he has done. Looking at the names that have come out, I think people being appointed for the positions are of the aspect of that area. And we believe that he's on top of issues. So he has done well. We want to congratulate him. We know that he's going to take Ghana to the promised land.
Okay.
But I'm very sad this evening to hear a voice of Sir John.
I'm sorry, Fire, we can't talk about Sir John because he didn't speak to us here. But let's take our very final call. Kasim, who is in the Western region. Hello, good evening, Kasim.
Yeah, good evening, sir.
Okay, where are you reaching us from in the Western region?
My name is Sapir Kubi, calling from Sefia Kontomra.
Sefia Kontomra, okay, please go ahead.
Yeah, let me thank you for a good job done this evening.
Okay, thank
you.
We
will be NPP the lead by March, and I know we'll take over from John Mahama. But as new ministries are going to be created, especially for gas and oil, we of the cocoa industry believe it's time for a Ministry of Cocoa Affairs. So
that's what Cocoa Board is there for.
Cocoa Board is part of the ministry.
Isn't Cocoa Board serving you well?
Cocoa Board.
I'm asking, isn't Cocoa Board serving all your needs?
Oh, my brother, the cocoa sector has catered for this country since independence.
Yes, that's true.
Roads are very bad. You don't have good schools, no hospitals. So it's about high time to get
that's true. In fact, that's true.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, my guests in the studio seem to agree or disagree with you. You don't need a cocoa ministry.
You don't need a cocoa ministry.
We do have
to be honest with you,
yes.
I get irritated that you have cocoa hospital in Accra. You have no cocoa hospital in Jabiso.
Okay.
And I think that we must pressure the Cocoa Marketing Board to build a state-of-the-art hospital.
So that these farmers will also feel that they won't see the need for them to have a cocoa ministry.
That's right. Okay. You know? So I believe that advocacy we need to do, but they don't need a ministry.
Okay, we have to be wrapping up to make way for the news at 8. But so our final round, the ministers will have to go through vetting. Parliament is on recess now, and they're expected back, I think, 29th of January. Will the minority members who will be on the vetting committee, will they be there to vet them or they'll leave?
Why not? Per the constitutional arrangement, that there can be no power vacuum. Okay. That's what the Constitution says.
Okay.
The very fact that you are disputing the election does not mean that Ghana must move on. And the Constitution makes an arrangement that any government who takes over, should the Supreme Court upholds our case, must continue with whatever arrangement the previous president had left off. So we cannot say that we are backing off, okay? Because what is being done now is in our law books.
Judge, I give you 1 minute.
It is interesting that I expected them to boycott the vetting if there was going to be a vetting process during the vetting process, because one, the same constitution you are quoting as backing for you to sit and vet ministers is the same constitution that tells us that when a president shall be elected, and that president shall be duly sworn in. The Constitution states so, that a president shall be duly sworn in, and that there shall be no power vacuum. You poo-pooed the Constitution and boycotted the swearing in of the
we
president.
Exercise our right of protest. We exercise our right of protest.
Exercise our right at the vetting.
Just as you walked out.
Exercise our right at the vetting.
All right, I think we'll leave it there. Let the debates continue in your homes and your offices, wherever you are. But this is where we draw the curtain on this week's edition of Joint Caucus. My name is Nia Kofi Smatabi. My guest in the studio, Samuel George Nete. He is a member of Government's Communications Team. Many thanks for joining us. And then also Samuel Jamfi. He is a member of the NPP's Communications Team. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you same time next week. Good evening.